pick out 3 or 4 of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of them say like more of the same or just stuff like that.
Hey,
These
man.
little
Hot chicks kicking ass isn't getting old in my book.
It doesn't get old for me. It's Hey, El Toddo.
What's going on?
We got a podcast, The Buff and the Blazer. If I was a listener, where would I go to find more?
You can check us out on our website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. Drew over there writes a article that goes along with every single episode.
You can find all kinds of little extras on the articles, and you can listen to the podcast right there. Also, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, we're on Twitter at Buff and Blazer. Follow us there.
Get those clicks, people.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to The Buff and the Blazer, episode 15. I'm Drew, and as always, I'm joined here by my good friend and yours, Mr. El Toddo.
What's up?
How you doing, El Toddo?
Good. Another week of
Another week.
sitting inside and working.
Working, recording podcasts, watching movies, whatnot.
Yeah, I wish the podcasting and the movies were taking up more of my time. But I feel busier than ever with nothing to do. It's weird.
Yeah, it's all very weird. But today, we're going to talk about a little film that I think you and I both kind of enjoyed, called Anna, directed by Luc Besson, I think his name is. And it stars Sasha Luz in the title role, and Helen Mirren, Luke Evans, and Cillian Murphy as some of the main cast. But I want to know, first, before you get into kind of your general thoughts of the film, how did you find out about this movie? I'm curious.
I saw a trailer or commercial for it, something like that.
Okay.
I don't even remember where it was. It might have been like a YouTube ad or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to see it right away because I love action movies and I love hot chicks. And that's what this movie looked like, so I wanted to watch it.
It's almost the same exact thing happened to me. I remember the film. I remember watching a trailer for it and have no idea where I saw it. But I was immediately intrigued when I saw it. So what did you think of it overall, though, after watching it?
I was thoroughly entertained. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I could have done with a little more action scenes. Yeah, it's exactly what I thought. It's a Russian spy chick movie. There's tons of them. And it was entertaining. It kept me engaged. The storyline was predictable, but still, intriguing. With spy stories, you're always going to have a bunch of, twists. And I kind of like how in this movie they didn't just expect everyone to get all the twists, but they cycled back in time multiple times throughout the movie.
Right.
And then would go through time, but you see that different angle of what was happening when you saw something else. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But it was an entertaining movie. It's not an award winner or anything like that, but definitely a popcorn type movie.
I'd say most films don't have to be award winners. Some of the best, most enjoyable films out there are the ones that aren't award winners. And I kind of feel the same exact way you do. So right off the top, this film got totally demolished on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's at a 33%. So going into it, I was expecting a total dumpster fire of a film. And I was actually surprised at how entertained I was by this movie. The first 25 minutes go by, and I was kind of I don't know how I felt about the character of Anna and where it was going, but then you get the first flashback, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So the ending, like you said, is a little bit predictable, but it's kind of gives you a few twists and turns that make it interesting along the way, I guess. Surprisingly, you see Sasha Luz in this role, and you're immediately captivated. She's gorgeous and beautiful, and she totally owned the role. And for her, she was the most enjoyable part of the film for me. I was so impressed by her performance, all her stunts, her action, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And it's an action film, but it's not overly filled with action. It's not action every minute, every scene.
There's
I
only a
felt like
few. There's only like two
yeah,
really
and they're
big
pretty
action scenes, but they're like long John Wick
yeah,
style.
exactly. So I felt like it allowed the film to breathe a little bit, and then I was actually surprised at how much character depth they were able to get into with a film like this. So I mean, overall, it's not a perfect film, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I would totally watch it again. It was a film like in the same vein as Atomic Blonde or a John Wick. So if you enjoy films like that, I feel like you could totally get something out of this movie too.
I think the John Wick movies are a bit better than this.
Yeah, I mean,
But
those
I haven't
films
seen
are well
Atomic
made.
Blonde, and I want to. We'll have to review it here soon.
Yeah, we could definitely jump on that. And that I think overall is a more tightly made film, and it's just better overall. But I felt like the beats of this film give you that same kind of enjoyment that you get from films like that. So
Yeah,
I
so
was surprised.
it's got 36 on the critics and 81% with the audience. So I fall into that 81%. You know, if you go into
Yeah.
something expecting it to be what it's advertised as,
Right.
then you're going to have a good time if it delivers. But if you're expecting some movie, a story that's been told a million different times in TV shows and movies and this
Right.
Russian spy thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
then of course you're going to give it a horrible rating if you're looking for like originality and stuff like that. But I don't think this movie's trying to be that at all. It's just another, you know, slot on the shelf of, you know, James Bond or Russian spy movies, hot chick kicking ass movies. It's just another one of those, and I liked it.
Well, here's the thing too, like, because I know you haven't seen Atomic Blonde, and we mentioned this a little bit off air, but I feel like had this film come out maybe before Atomic Blonde, it wouldn't have gotten such a beating. I feel like the fact that Atomic Blonde came out and then this film came out a few years later might have hurt it, because there are some very similar beats in this film to Atomic Blonde. Like, it's even set during almost the same time period, definitely in that like later phase of the Cold War in Russia and in Eastern Europe.
Like right at the collapse of the
Right.
Soviet Union, early 90s.
Yeah. Actually, Atomic Blonde might have taken place a few years before that, but still in the general kind of later Cold War era. And like, they both star, you know, really, really good looking women. They both kick ass. There's lots of good action. And then even the ends of the film have similar kinds of twists. So I feel like had this have been judged more on its own, which I feel like a lot of the reviews I read didn't seem that way. They just kind of, a lot of the negative aspects of the film I was reading in these reviews were saying how it's kind of just more of the same, more of everything we've already seen. So that's why I feel like Atomic Blonde might have affected some of the ratings of this film a little bit.
Well, that movie came out two years prior, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe it is a little close. You need
Yeah.
like a 5-year gap every hot chick spy movie.
Yeah, you need your hot chick films spread out a little better.
No way.
Yeah, I'm with you
Keep
right
them
there.
coming.
Yeah, keep them coming and keep me entertained, because this was a highly entertaining film for me. But let me ask you a little bit about what you thought of the timeline. So this film isn't told in your classic linear style. It goes back and forth in the timeline. And at first, I thought that the film was going down a weird path. And then once we got the first flashback, or transport back to time, what was it, like 3 years earlier, 5 years earlier, they jump a few years back and forth. That's when I was like, okay, this is a little bit more of an interesting take on a story like this. What did you feel when you got those first couple of flashbacks?
I liked it because it provided the context
Yeah.
in a really detailed way. So they could have been like quick flashbacks where you get glimpses and then they pepper that throughout the movie, and then you put the whole puzzle together at the end.
Right.
But this kind of like jumped back and gave you the full backstory up into when the flashback started.
Yeah.
And then it kind of did that multiple times throughout the movie.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like even the part when the one chick, when she first moves to Paris to become a model and she's got the scar on her wrist, she's like, oh yeah, I was young and dumb when I did that. And then like a few minutes later, it jumps back and you see that whole backstory of her slitting her wrist and getting pulled into the KGB. I thought that was cool to not expect you to remember everything throughout the movie and then have to piece it all back together at the end.
Right. That's the
like
thing I
that.
meant. Yeah, me too. That's the thing I meant about the first 25 minutes I didn't know how to feel, is because I felt like they were going to go down this line of she's this poor girl that works in a market. She becomes a supermodel, and then they train her to be a badass assassin, like a supermodel assassin. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can believe that. And then they flash back, and then you see how that's has nothing to do with it. It's the opposite, in fact.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, okay, this makes way more sense, and it's way more believable. But one thing I will say, too, about the flashbacks in time is that I feel like they do a lot to develop characters in a film like this. Because a lot of times, the reason films like this get a lot of heat is because they're so action heavy that you don't have a chance to develop a lot of the characters in it. And I was surprised at how much, at least for Anna, how well they developed her backstory. So like as the film progresses and you kind of see her evolution as an assassin and a character, you really buy into like her past and why she feels the way she feels towards the end. And I feel like the flashbacks really helped keep the story going, keep it interesting, but also develop the character along the way.
Yeah, because there's other characters that shape her character.
Right.
And with maybe like a quick flashback, you wouldn't get that development of like her boyfriend originally.
Right.
And it's almost like they set the movie up to be like a Bourne type trilogy.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like the whole beginning, this whole first movie is so deep that like at the end of the movie it's set up to go in a bunch of different ways, and that's because her character is so deeply developed.
Right.
And she's so young still.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I appreciated that. I thought the context was sufficient for as convoluted of a spy story that you're trying to tell, right?
Yeah. And I think something I took away too after watching this is the movie starts and you're immediately thrown in to the story. There's not a whole lot of setup. You're just kind of thrown into the events and you're witnessing ultimately what happens in the beginning, like the capture of these U.S. undercover agents. And there's a bunch of them. And I was thinking about it after the fact, and I'm like, it's really not setting up the ultimate end of the film, but it's like setting up a leg. So I look at the plot of this film as almost like you have the main storyline that's supported by these two legs, one being the Russian side of things and the other being the United States side of things. And they kind of converge and cause Anna to feel a certain way at the end, which when she reaches her ultimate like resolution. And so I found that kind of interesting, how the beginning of the film is really made to set up sort of a leg of that subplot almost. So I thought that was kind of weird and interesting at the same time.
Yeah, it's almost like Anna's story is a very interesting subplot within a much larger story,
Right.
that is
right.
cyclical,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the whole spy battle going on in Europe between the U.S. and the Russians
Right.
is constantly one getting the upper hand on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really cool that she's just playing both sides against them.
Yeah.
As basically as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time.
Yeah.
But the whole time her whole integration to the plot is solely developed to her character, because all she wants is her freedom.
Right.
And nothing else matters. No country loyalty, no love life, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was pretty cool. She's kind of like the in-between of these two curves of spies on both sides.
Right, right, right. And what I really enjoyed about her character too is that, like you said, from the very beginning, you get the sense that she's totally in it to become independent and self-sufficient and to get out on her own. So she's almost like she's offered an opportunity with the KGB. She takes it, but she's also able to balance this mix of you understand that she's in it because she wants to eventually earn her freedom, but at the same time, I feel like she really has a sort of loyalty to the Russian side of things, especially with like the character of Alex played by Luke Evans, and even her relationship that she develops with Olga, Helen Mirren's character. You get a nice little arc. Like at first she's totally doing it for the end goal of getting out, but then along the way she develops these relationships that kind of mature, and she gets close to these individuals. But I'll talk a little bit more because I feel like that side of the equation, the Russian side of things, was really nicely developed. But on the other side, that was something totally different that I feel different about. But
The
overall,
American side?
yeah, the American side, I felt like Cillian Murphy kind of comes out of nowhere
Yeah.
as Lenny, and she like immediately has this connection with him, and I didn't buy that at all. I'm like, you've been in a room with this dude for 5 minutes, and then he's like showing up at these fancy beach resorts, wooing you, and you just totally buy into him and what he's saying. I didn't believe that. Whereas
I could see
her
that.
her relationship with Alex, I felt like was a lot more deep and developed.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot more. It takes a lot more time to establish that relationship, and I bought it at the end.
But doesn't it almost make sense the way she kind of played Lenny with it not making sense, like them just being awesome right away and banging right away? Like
Yeah, like you take it as she kind of more plays him. That's
exactly.
why-
That's like
yeah,
it makes sense at the end.
I would buy that if she didn't say the line at the end of the film that she ends up saying when they're all sitting at the table.
I don't
When
remember what it is exactly.
She says something like, Alex is the one he's like, come home to your family or something like that. Basically, like, come back to the KGB, come back to us. And she's like, the only family I have is here at this table.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like,
remember.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. Half of the table is her family, maybe. But, but yeah, we can go into that a little more.
But maybe that's part of the whole plan.
Yeah.
Is playing both the two guys off, and like it's smart on her part to get someone on her side on both sides.
Right. And that was one thing I really liked about the resolution of this film. And Atomic Blonde has not so much a one-for-one similar resolution, but there is a twist at the end of Atomic Blonde in the same way that this film has a twist. And I actually enjoyed the ending of Anna more than I did of Atomic Blonde.
This movie like ramps up in twists
Yeah.
as it goes. Like, you know, when the flashbacks start, the twists start to come in, and then at the end of the movie, it's like every second scene there's another twist in the whole plot.
Yeah.
But they still show you everything, which is pretty cool.
That's also one little critique I had again is like after the first 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, is it almost too much, right?
Yeah, I was just like, okay, so I'm waiting for the next flashback to happen, and then it happens, and I'm like, okay. Then something goes on a little more, and I'm like, okay, show me my flashback. It's almost like Family Guy. When you have your little flashback scenes, you're expecting them after a while, and after
Most of Family Guy is pretty expected.
yeah.
Even though
So,
the details are different and all the jokes.
Right.
It's
So
still
like
funny,
after
though.
yeah, I love that show. But after the second or third flashback, I was like, okay, so I kind of get, the structure of this now. But still, I think the plot could have been a lot more boring in a film like this.
It got right up onto the line of being too complex.
Right.
Like, I think if you would have tried to weave one more character into that,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's too much. Like, even her lover, the other supermodel chick,
Mm-hmm.
like, she's barely in the story at all.
Maud.
Yeah. She's barely in the story at all, and if you would have tried to weave her into it, like all of a sudden at, an hour and 40 minutes into the movie, she's like a spy for the Americans or something.
Yeah,
You know what I
that would have
mean?
been kind of cool. That would have been that would have been really cool.
But that's like the next spot you would have to go with how many
Yeah.
twists there are in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been maybe that would have been too much. I don't know. So I feel like without going too deep into character, I felt like there was better character development in some areas and not so good character development in others.
Let me ask you something. With the way the movie ended, do you think if the movie would have done well, they would have tried to spin this off?
Yeah, if this film would have done well, if it would have gotten better ratings, I feel like they may have. See, I don't know how this film did at the box office. That's what I'm curious. I don't even know if it was widely released. Had this got a better critical response, I felt like, yeah, this is something we could definitely have gotten a sequel out of. Although I'm not seeing anything for Atomic Blonde, and that did fine with critics. So,
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Sometimes I feel like with these movies, if the first one is enjoyable, I almost want them to keep it that way and not go too much down the sequel line, because then you start to get these really awful sequels.
Well, I think with action, though, you can get away with it a lot more.
Yeah.
Like the the trilogy, the first three.
Yeah.
I love those. And there's Identity, Ultimatum, and Supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's more, right?
Yeah, there's more, I think. And I can't remember the names.
I don't know if I've seen the others, but those three are awesome. The 3 John Wick movies are awesome, all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like, why is it so that we got like Atomic Blonde, Red Sparrow, Anna? Why can't they spin this off?
Yeah.
And give us like a triple action? I think if they leaned into the fighting way more, it seems like Atomic Blonde, from what I saw in the trailer, there's a lot more fighting action.
I think in
in
Atomic
that.
Blonde, there are a lot more smaller action sequences.
Okay.
Whereas in Anna, you have like 3 big ones. 3 or 4 big ones.
Are they? Is there 3? So there's the first major mission in the restaurant where she basically fucks up an entire restaurant.
Yeah. I
Which
guess I'm also including like the car chase and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting at. And then there's the big action in the KGB or in the Kremlin at the end.
Yeah.
And there's all the rest of it is like montage action,
Or like
right?
the setup for all that.
Yeah, there's not a ton. I mean, John Wick movies are like an hour and a half of fight scene and 15 minutes of everything else.
Yeah.
So I think if you lean way into the action, you can get away with running these types of movies into series.
Yeah, so I have some numbers up here. So Anna's budget was $30 million. And worldwide, it made $30.9 million. So it didn't do all that well. It lost money. Because that's taken into account advertising, which accounts for most of your budget.
Yeah.
So it lost some money. So on top of the bad critical ratings, I'm pretty sure we can kiss the sequel goodbye. Which sucks because
I'd take
I thought
one.
there were. Yeah, I would too.
When it comes to these type of movies, I'd rather watch this than a James Bond movie.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I have to say the Daniel Craig Bond movies have been some of the better Bond films.
I haven't seen any of them, so
Yeah.
maybe I'm speaking out of turn there.
Maybe when they give us the next Bond film, we'll have to do that one on the podcast and see what you think.
December.
Yeah, a lot of films are being pushed to December now.
Yeah, I saw today.
Top Gun just got pushed.
Top Gun. Your heart is just broken, huh?
I felt the need for speed, man. And now it's going to be a cold one. But that's fine. Going back to some of the action scenes, though, did you have a favorite?
Yeah, the restaurant scene.
Yeah, man.
She's
hands down.
Yeah, she's a little too badass in the Kremlin scene at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like she's still getting fucked up a little bit, but in the restaurant scene, she's like getting her ass kicked.
Yeah, I know.
And it's so good. She's stabbing that one guy with the fork, and she's
I was so
lethal
impressed.
with the gun. I could have done the whole movie be like that, and I would have been super stoked.
Yeah, and the reason why that makes me so happy is because I dug a little bit into the behind the scenes of the making of this, and she did all the stunts for that sequence.
Awesome.
And when she came in, she was like, I want to do as many of the stunts as I possibly can. Like, I don't want the director would tell her so many times, like, we can just put a double in here. And she's like, no, I want to do it. And so she trained for that restaurant sequence for 6 months.
Wow.
They rehearsed it. They choreographed it. She trained for 6 months. And it totally shows. Like, the way it was executed, she's a total badass. Like, you buy into her physicality. And on top of that, like, Sasha Luz is a Russian supermodel. Like, that's her background. She's like a world-renowned model. And she totally just puts the role on, and you buy every second of it. And man, I was so impressed.
Yeah, I bought in 100% into her action scenes. And just while we're on that stunts thing for a second,
Yeah.
I saw a GIF on Reddit the other day of Margot Robbie doing some of the stunts.
I saw that.
You see that? So shout out
Yeah,
to
the
her.
one where
I don't
she-
know if we gave her props in the episode for doing her
Yeah.
own stunts, where she like does the little flips the guy
Mhm.
over, and then the jump up with the bat.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, some of these women are just total kick-ass in these films. I love it.
Her character, it's totally believable how badass she is,
Yeah.
because I really enjoyed how they showed her getting overpowered
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of times or getting, dropped and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not just every punch she throws is, knocking guys through walls
Is a
and
KO,
stuff
yeah.
like that. It was the violence was really realistic.
Well, I'll speak to that too. So, one of the things I love most about films like this is when the hero character takes a beating, because you buy into the action. So, in the same thing, you see it in Atomic Blonde. Like, Charlize Theron gets her ass kicked, like, pretty good in some of those action sequences, and she's all banged up and bruised,
Nice.
like looking at herself in the mirror. And I love that. It makes it gritty. It makes it realistic. And Anna's the same way. Like, she gets thrown around and pushed up against walls and choked. And yeah, I just couldn't get over how great Sasha Luz was, like, physically in that role. It was, I mean, even in terms of her acting, which we'll get into character, but yeah, just that whole restaurant sequence, it was so impressive.
Yeah, I liked it a lot more because the final scene, she's like almost way too in control and sure of herself.
Yeah.
And she knows what she has to do. She's,
Mm-hmm.
running through and fucking people up in the Kremlin.
Yeah.
That one's too unbelievable. It's like every one of those dudes it has a gun.
Either like these trained Russian KGB agents. and
Yeah.
She's mowing them down.
But no, I like the restaurant scene a lot because it's long too. It's like what, 4 or 5 minutes
Yeah.
of solid action. It's almost like because she has 5 minutes to complete the task,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like they took that and ran almost a scene that's pretty damn close to 5 minutes of pure
Yeah.
fighting,
Mhm.
which was awesome. I absolutely loved it.
Like when they flash back to her training, you don't actually get to see a lot of the nitty gritty of her training, but they mention it, how she's like top of, all these different areas of combat. So I bought into that. But before we move on specifically into some of the characters in this film, I wanted to ask real quick. This is just something I was asking myself as I watched this. There's tech in this film. So this film takes place like in the late 80s, early 90s, and you get a lot of tech. At one point in the film, she's walking like on the street or a bridge, and she calls up Alex using a cell phone, like someone's random person's cell phone walking around. She has to borrow it, I guess. She mentions that. Did you feel like the tech that they had in this film was maybe accurate for that time?
No, it was probably a little ahead.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, some of the tech was spot on.
Like, I maybe believe more of the tech side of things within the agencies,
Yeah.
but in terms of like random person A walking around the street in like 1991 with a cell phone,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think so.
That's not very believable.
Yeah,
I mean, they got her working a payphone in a lot of the movie. You should have just stayed with that.
right. But yeah, just a little thing I picked up on.
But like the
that I-
tech stuff with the spy agencies, like how
Mhm.
they got their trucks that are full of cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
That stuff's fairly believable.
Mhm.
It's not like there was like drones and shit in the movie in 1990.
Right.
But yeah, the cell phone thing. I mean, they had cell phones then, but they didn't look like that. They weren't like a early 2000s flip phone.
Yeah, and I
'Cause
always
that's
believe
what it looked like in the movie, right? Or they were a
Yeah.
little bigger, a little clunkier, but
Mhm.
1991 they were like, the size of a dustbuster.
And I
But-
always was under the impression that like it was people in like business and stuff that had cell phones, like not the average person walking around. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie doesn't, like, even though they tell you it's in that time period, it really doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd actually argue that it looked pretty decent, like with the cars and stuff, and
Some of the flashbacks in Russia, that stuff looked,
yeah, that
all
looked
those weird Russian cars that no one's ever
Mhm.
seen outside of that country.
yeah.
I like that. But
I
like in
didn't buy
Paris
a-
and stuff, I didn't feel like it looked very old.
Yeah,
Or in Hawaii, wherever they were.
and I definitely didn't feel like Cillian Murphy was wearing a suit from 1991.
No, he's a little too
He's a little fit and tailored.
yeah. Pinned up. I love him though.
Do
Is
you
it
notice that a lot of the
Cillian or
roles-
Killian?
I've heard it both ways. I've always just called him Cillian Murphy, but
I just call him Tommy because he's fucking Tommy on Peaky Blinders, which is the best show on Netflix.
yeah, he's always
I liked him
He
doing an American accent in this though.
yeah, he does
He's
a good
good.
job of that. He's in one of the Batman films, right? One of the Batman films, the trilogy you don't like.
It's not that I don't like it, I just can't take it seriously. Which one is he in? Is he in
He's
the
in
one
the first
with,
one.
with,
Well, actually, he's in two of them.
with Heath Ledger?
Yeah, the first one, he plays the Scarecrow, and he plays a psychiatrist psychiatrist, I think, or a psychologist. But he's again like in a suit. I always see him in films, and he's just dressed up in a suit. He's like the suit guy.
Oh, you should see his outfits in Peaky Blinders, man.
Yeah, I've seen
It's
a few
like-
of them.
The early 1920s.
Yeah,
Late,
he's very
just
dapper.
Like just post World War One. It's an awesome show.
I wonder how much he goes up to the costume designer. He's like, "All right, show me my suit." Speaking in terms of characters, though, let's go into that because I feel like this is where the film was really enjoyable for me. Obviously, Sasha Luz was the star of this film. She was the standout for me. I loved every second she was on screen. And I'm going to give her credit. Like, you put her character up in this film toe to toe with Charlize Theron's character in Atomic Blonde, and I couldn't pick which one I liked better. They're both that good to me.
Sasha Lewis probably doesn't have the acting chops, obviously, of Charlize, but in this role, this character, she was awesome.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking too, I'm sure the way that this character was written, I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote this character with her in mind.
Probably.
She has some dialogue, but there's not a whole lot there. But what she did have, I was blown away by how well she delivered. Because she doesn't have this huge, extensive action background. She's a total supermodel. That's her profession, and the way she just handled this role really, really got me. I was really blown away by it.
Yeah, she's obviously my favorite in the movie. It's just
Yeah.
hard not to be completely captivated with a chick that gorgeous. Sorry, you just gotta say that, because even my lady stayed up and watched this whole movie. We watched it like late at night, and she's usually passed out at 5 minutes into any movie we're watching, and she stayed
Right.
up for this entire movie.
Did she enjoy it?
Yeah, she liked it a lot.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, she's awesome in the movie. I'd love to see more action movies with her in them, or maybe like
Yeah.
horror action, like Resident Evil. What were those movies? Underworld, all those Kate Beckinsale movies.
Oh, yeah. Underworld.
That'd be sweet to see her go into some type of like horror, hot chick kicking ass franchise.
Oh, man. I would totally dig an Anna and Atomic Blonde crossover. Oh, man.
Do it.
One thing I will say about her character, though, I felt like I was able to connect a lot more with Anna as a character as opposed to Charlize Theron's character in Atomic Blonde, just because I felt like they developed Anna a lot more in this film than they did Charlize Theron's character.
Is she just like
Not
A
to say that
total
that's good or bad.
fully
I'm just saying
groomed
that-
badass when you meet her in Atomic
No,
Blonde?
it's almost like in Atomic Blonde they just throw you into action and the plot of the story. they don't care about background. You're there with Charlize Theron in the moment, and you don't get a whole lot of backstory with her. You get like hints of things, you get little mentions, at least from what I remember, and you get like her tendencies. But with this film, Anna, like you even get to get flashbacks of her childhood. Like you find out she's an excellent chess player at a really young age. So she's really smart.
Yeah, she speaks a bunch of different languages.
Yeah, like you just kind of you fall in love with her as a character, the way they develop her.
And every dude that meets her in the movie falls in love with her too.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, I think she was a favorite for me and you. Another character I really loved was Olga, played by Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of more perfect casting than her in that role. Like, I bought that she's the grizzled, like, take no shit kind of KGB director person or trainer that's helping Anna progress. And I liked how, you know, you see that in a lot of films, how she's the character that you feel is too difficult and a hard ass, but then she develops and you end up really, really respecting her and liking her towards the end. And the two characters develop this relationship that I felt was probably the best relationship in the whole film to me, like Anna and Olga.
Yeah, because it's one just out of pure respect
Totally, yeah.
for each other towards the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a physical attraction type thing like she has with all the other guys.
Right.
in
And
the
another
movie.
thing that was super enjoyable about that dynamic was they're both super smart and intelligent.
Yeah.
And so, like, Olga's been in the game a lot longer than Anna, but Anna can keep up with everything because she's really sharp too. So it's fun to see them interact and kind of like get at each other during certain times of the film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Olga. I just loved how smart she is. And like at the end of the movie when you find out that she was on to the Americans being on to Anna,
Yeah.
but she kept that quiet on her own
Mhm.
end.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite twist in the whole movie.
See, it's stuff like that where I feel like twists really help. They not only do they help keep you engaged in the story, but they help develop characters. And that's what I thought they did a really good job with in this film and using twists. I mean, as you got deeper into the film, yeah, maybe the twists become a little more predictable with the flashbacks and stuff, but that's a really good example of how it's used in a very, very like all-encompassing way with like developing the characters, moving the plot along. That was really cool.
Yeah, and Olga's character is like absolutely pro-Russian every bit of the movie.
Yeah.
And then when you find out at the end that she's got her own ambitions that go even above her loyalty to her country at the end of the movie, I thought that was a nice little twist to throw in there.
You could almost argue that Anna and Olga are the same character almost, or maybe at one point they were the same exact person.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Olga maybe strikes me as a character that in her younger years she felt exactly the same way as Anna, but maybe couldn't find her way out or didn't take her way out. Like she just stayed in.
Yeah.
Like you almost get that sense. So
or
when
she didn't have the clout to, or never got the opportunity to work her way out.
right,
Instead, she's trying to work her way to the top.
yeah.
You know, like went that route instead of trying to get out.
And so that comes across a little bit, or it did at least for me. And it's like, yeah, Anna and Olga, they totally bond over that towards the end. And then you have the two like suits, Alex and Lenny, and they're total like rah, you know, America, Russia.
I liked Alex's character, played by Luke Evans.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty convincing.
Yeah, to me he was entirely convincing, and I liked the relationship he develops with Anna. That felt natural and that felt organic. Like he's there from the very beginning. He helps her to get out of that awful situation she's in the beginning with that, you know, just bullshit relationship she's in.
Yeah.
And he gives her a choice. But what I like is that in the beginning he gives her the advice that she takes at the end, where he's like, you don't trust anyone. Like, don't trust any man. Don't put your faith in any man. Almost don't put your faith in anyone. Like, trust yourself.
Yeah.
And that sticks with her throughout the whole film.
But it kind of comes across that, like, he doesn't have the balls that she does.
No.
Because he's still just towing the line,
Right.
towing the country line the whole time.
Yeah.
But I thought he played his character really good. Speaking of the younger boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
how'd you like his character? Alexander Petrov is the actor?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the actor pulling off, his character being a complete and utter bag of trash, like, he did a great job.
He's real creepy.
Yeah, like I wanted to reach in and like slap the dude. He's
Yeah,
just awful.
I thought he did a really good job of playing a, kind of a villain.
Yeah, there wasn't really a performance in the film that I thought was bad at all. Everyone did a really good job with the roles they had.
Yeah, everything, all the acting fit. Everybody like looked the part.
Yeah, and like even Cillian Murphy as Lenny, it's not that I didn't buy his performance. He did a great job in that role. Like he played his character exactly the way I would think someone like that would be.
Yeah.
Where it fell flat a little bit for me was trying to buy that relationship between him and Anna towards the end, where they get really close. But I guess if I look at it more in terms of how you see it,
yeah,
where
she's playing him, dude, the whole time. She's got the recorder in the dresser, and she's hacking his fucking computer.
Yeah. If they would have just cut that line out about family at the end, I would have been totally on board with that. But again, that's like a little bit more of a minor thing. But I'm glad they got her relationship with the Russian side of things spot on, because those are the people she should be a lot closer to anyways.
Lenny's character is kind of like what they do in most of these spy movies, where they show you something at the very beginning and then that doesn't come back around until the end when you find out he was the project manager that got all those Russian agents killed.
Yeah.
Earlier in time.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do that with Anna's character. They kind of give you context the whole movie. But they could have done, I don't know. Yeah, I get what you're saying as him just kind of being shoehorned in a bit too deep with not a lot of backstory.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that chick's just so gorgeous that you sit down across from her and have a conversation at the table and boom, you're hooked for life.
Oh, no, I definitely got that. Like, I totally buy into his connection to her.
Oh, okay.
I didn't buy her connection to him.
Well, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really sure I was intended to buy it. I don't even buy her connection to Alex as much.
No, she could beam me one glance and I'd be like, marry me, please. But yeah, it's
all the banging on her end is just business.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's
that's
seriously
for sure.
just business.
Yeah. She's like, I have a need and you're going to fill my need right now.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So yeah, Cillian Murphy did a great job. Everyone did a really fantastic job with the acting in this film. I really enjoyed that. Oh yeah. Going back to that flashback scene where you have Cillian Murphy and her in the room as they're negotiating her like working with the Americans. I loved when she leaves the room and she forgets to get the dude's finger.
Yeah.
And then she has to go back and they're like, she's like, I need his fucking finger.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you serious? And then they go through with it. I was like, oh shit, that's awful.
Yeah, that was a really cool part of the movie.
Yeah, that was like, it was really humorous and gross and awesome at the same time. Yeah, that kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah, that was sweet. Because when it first happens, you think she just went back in and chopped the guy's finger off of his dead body.
Yeah.
And it's not that big a deal. And then they come back in and they come back later with the flashback and they show what happened then.
I like how Cillian Murphy's like, sir, take a deep breath, get on the table.
Did you buy the amount of dudes that they had in the room at
like
that
being
point
able
in the
to,
movie? Being able to hide that from the Russians who are in
No.
the same freaking building, one hotel room over. That was
Not
a little
really.
over the top for me.
They had like a little mini company in there, like a little army of
Had
soldiers.
like 25 dudes in full
Yeah.
SWAT gear.
Yeah, like they have their little SWAT team like ready at all times. Apparently.
Yeah, those parts of the movie I didn't buy that much.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like our spy, the CIA, and Russian spies don't operate with that much manpower.
Yeah, I don't think so.
when they're in complete undercover mode. That part didn't seem very believable.
Yeah, I get you. And then, like, how would you have that much manpower in the room down the hall, right across from what the KGB has going in the other room?
Yeah.
Like, not being discovered.
And how does the KGB not have that room bugged?
Yeah, exactly.
You
So
know?
yeah, I didn't even think about that till you mentioned it.
Some of that stuff wasn't a little non-believable.
Did you like the resolution at the end, like with her, with Anna as a character? Like, did you like where she ended up at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could have had her die.
Yeah,
That would have been fine, too.
that was another little twist they throw at you at the end.
Yeah, that could have been fine. I knew that she wasn't going to be dead.
Yeah.
But that they could have killed her. That would have been perfect.
That's another moment where I was like, okay, show me the flashback now. So that's where it got a little bit predictable. But I liked how it was as happy ending as you could get for a film like this. And sometimes I want my happy endings.
Yeah.
And this film, I got it.
Yeah, and you're rooting for her the whole time. She's the hero. She's
Yeah.
the one putting in all the madness to try and make her life better.
right.
You're rooting for her. But she got to work on her posture if she's going to be incognito, because that's how they found her in the first place.
Oh yeah,
was her
with her purse.
supermodel super posture that she walks around with.
Yeah.
You know, she's hiring body doubles to walk like her, and then she's got this wicked strut.
Yeah.
Start walking
Nah.
like a normal person if you want to vanish into the crowd of people.
I can't say I mind the strut though.
No, you love the strut. The strut's got to be like the poster
Yeah.
on the movie, right?
Yeah, I love me some strut action
Oh, it's
from
got
Sasha.
yeah, it's got like a it's like the look back.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the poster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could have done with more action.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Could have had some more.
Or maybe they could have broken up such long action sequences and gave us a little more smaller sequences.
No, give us like 3 of those 5, 3 or 5 of those monster
long ones?
fight scenes. Yeah,
Oh man.
that would have been sweet. How do you feel about how the movie was shot?
Okay, so here's the thing. Luc Besson, just watching this film, I could tell that he's been in the game for a while in terms of being a director. I could tell that he was someone that was more seasoned because the way the film was shot, it's shot in a very traditional way. And like I don't know if you felt the same way, but there weren't a whole lot of these really elaborate shot sequences that you see in some of these films where you're like, "Whoa, how did they do that?" Or that's something I haven't seen before. Like this film was shot very traditionally in terms of movies you'd see like in the late 80s, early 90s in that time period, which was fine because I almost didn't care about that. I was all invested into like what was happening on screen. But that was just something I was able to pick out a little bit. One thing I did like about his shots though was the framing. Like I felt like there were a lot of beautifully framed shots, even with things that really had nothing to do with, you know, Anna as a character or anything like that. It was, even if it was just like a shot of a car down an alleyway or something, the way he'd frame stuff like that was really, really pleasing. A lot of good symmetry with some of those shots. But in terms of like camera moves or anything that would knock your socks off in terms of like, you know, this real high level cinema, I didn't get any of that. But I didn't need it. I didn't need it from this film.
Yeah, it seemed to be right in line with this genre.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did notice about the movie was with the amount of flashbacks, there was a few times where the flashback would come back to the present from a different angle. So it would be like the same scene that happened right before the flashback.
Uh-huh.
But it would come at it from a different angle. It happened a few different times.
Oh,
and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah,
terms
so you get like multiple perspectives and viewpoints of the same event.
yeah, of the exact same moment in time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was really cool.
I like that part about the movie. But everything else, all of the action and stuff, it all felt very just, you know, in line with this type of movie. Nothing like blew me away.
One thing I will say though is with the set design, like this film taking place in like Russia and parts in France too, right?
Yeah.
Like, what they say. I don't know if they actually shot in France. There's something about this period in the Cold War era, like the late Cold War era, turn of the decade, like late 80s, 90s, that I like to see on screen. Like, you always get this gray vibe, like everything just, like everything literally looks cold. And there's something pleasing about that for me. You get it in Atomic Blonde too.
Well, if you're doing Soviet Union, Russia stuff, it's
Yeah.
got to be gray, man.
Yeah, it's just something about that look I'm really drawn to. And
Did
I
you watch
love how
Chernobyl?
parts of it.
On HBO.
Yeah, parts of it.
There's
Like,
like
I haven't finished the whole thing.
so much gray in that show.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
really
look,
good,
though.
by the way.
Yeah, I've heard really good things, but yeah, something about that look I really enjoy, especially in films like this. And so I was really happy to see that they went along with that. And another thing I'll mention too, like in terms of the technical filmmaking, is the cutting in this film. The editing is really, really well done. So, like, having said that the film's shot very traditionally, what makes it watchable and what makes it really, really intense is the way the film's cut. So if you go back and watch the way that the restaurant sequence is cut, it's a lot of these really quick, fast cuts, and you get like real close-up shots of like fists and people getting punched in the gut and stuff and the face. And I don't know. I thought that the way that was crafted was really, really well done. And the editing in the film, I thought it did a lot to help enhance the look of it.
Yeah,
and hype up the action.
and like when she like tucks behind the wall, the bookcase wall in the restaurant,
Yeah.
and it's like only her in frame with the
Mhm.
two guns, and then it like she turns around, and I really enjoyed how all the action was shot.
Like when they said it took 6 months to choreograph and plan that whole sequence out, I believed it. I was like, yeah, obviously. It was so well done.
I don't know
and then-
about effects in the movie though, like obviously
were
the gunshots.
yeah.
But other than that, there didn't seem to be a lot of special effects of any kind.
Yeah, and I love that about these films. I love how the action is a lot more down to earth and gritty
Yeah.
and more realistic. I really like that. And we have to mention like the stunt work in this film. It's really like, I don't know who the stunt coordinators were for this film, but they did a hell of a job.
Yeah, it's really good.
And the way they were able to train Sasha in the role, like, damn. That's all I can say.
So I'm looking
want-
at this director,
Uh-huh.
Luc Besson,
Yeah.
and he's done The Fifth Element, The Professional.
Yeah, which is a film I really like.
I don't think anybody doesn't like that movie. Movie's awesome. Lucy,
Yeah.
which I haven't seen. Have you seen Lucy?
I've seen most of it.
What is the premise? Hot
it's
chick
kind of
kicking
an-
ass?
Yeah. This is his wheelhouse. This is his wheelhouse. Like, he's very much at home with these kinds of stories.
And then La Femme Nikita, 1990.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a while.
Awesome. I'm more familiar with the USA spin-off show with the blonde chick
Yeah, me too.
on after Pacific Blue. 1990s on USA Channel.
Could you see Sasha lose in a role like that?
Hell
A
yeah.
Rebooted
on-
La Femme Nikita?
Put it on Netflix.
Yeah, or make it an HBO show.
Yeah, HBO does everything the best. But The Fifth Element has like a wicked cult following, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's a really weird film.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But yeah, it has like a cult following. But I guess that's sci-fi. Sci-fi is supposed to be really weird.
So this movie is exactly in line with the types of movies that Homeboy makes.
Yeah.
So maybe he's getting shit on by critics because these are the types of movies he likes to make. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of maybe taking a few liberties from Atomic Blonde, but also the fact that it's like, okay, Luc Besson's making another film about this chick kicking ass and getting revenge and stuff. And if you read pick out 3 or 4 of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of them say like more of the same or just stuff like that.
Hey man,
Little,
Hot Chicks Kicking Ass isn't getting old in my book.
it doesn't get old for me. I was expecting complete garbage for this film, and I did not get that.
Well, I knew it wasn't going to be garbage when I saw it come to HBO, because that's what I watched
okay.
it on.
Is that a pretty fair indicator of a film being pretty watchable?
Yeah, HBO don't bring on no garbage, dude.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, there might be some garbage movies here and there, but almost every movie that they rotate out of their lineup,
Well, I
like
guess it makes
the
sense.
new features
Yeah.
are usually pretty good movies. They're not bad
Mhm.
movies.
I mean, I get that the film has its weak spots, but a 33%, that's a little much.
I go with the 81. It's like 67 people that
Okay,
give
yeah.
it a 36%.
Like Atomic Blonde has an 80 or an 81%. I'd put this film somewhere around there, maybe like a 70, 75.
People just love Charlize, though. Everyone should love Charlize,
I mean, I
but
love
she's
Charlize.
kind of like so awesome that you can't trash a movie she's in.
Yeah, she's an automatic 20 Rotten Tomatoes points right there.
And maybe some of the critics are mad at Russia, so they're dissing this one. Bunch
It's
of
not so much Russia's fault.
it's not this hot chick's fault.
Yeah,
She
it's
did a
not
good
her
job.
fault either. She did so good. Yeah, I'm really hoping we see her in more films.
Yeah,
I
me
was
too.
blown away by her performance in this movie.
Where did the score hit you on this movie?
Here's another aspect of the film that surprisingly I almost tuned out upon first watch because I watched like the film 2 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I enjoyed it the first time. I wanted to rewatch it,
Nice.
and so the second time I saw it, it's there, but in this film you really don't notice it a whole lot. And when it's
man, we're like so polar opposite on score.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, well, no. So not that it's not there. I'm talking about it's there in the action sequences. Like you get the fast-paced, house music or whatever that
Yeah.
she's kicking ass to.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the dramatic scenes and stuff where you would normally expect score to be. It's there, and you have to really pay attention to hear it. It's
Okay.
like very, very subtle and very much in the background. So for me, it didn't do a whole lot to enhance the film or make me feel one way or the other about it. To, like what I said here in my notes is that you could almost take out 90% of the score, and I'd still buy into everything that was going on screen.
Yeah, I can see that. What the parts of the movie musically that I really enjoyed was the action, like
Yeah.
what you're saying, the upbeat
Right.
stuff, and then like the like 80s montage that's playing when they're doing like
Her modeling.
it's doing it during the modeling, and then when she's doing they're like montaging her killing dudes
Yeah.
for like it's like a whole montage, or
It's
whatever.
a killing montage.
2 minutes, and I thought the music in that was great and timed really well with the editing. So I actually
Yeah.
really enjoyed the score on this.
So yeah, you could keep all that stuff in, but all the other scenes that had little bits and pieces of stuff, you almost didn't need. It was fine.
I think I prefer that. I think I'd prefer no music during dramatic stuff
Mm-hmm.
and music during action.
See, maybe I'm just too much of a John Williams fan. Like a John John Williams, like if you take out, like we'll go off on a little tangent here real quick, but if you look at a Star Wars
he's your
film,
modern day Beethoven, right?
he is, yeah.
I'm not educated enough if I can call bullshit on that.
Well, just in terms of like
But
movies,
it seems like a bullshitty kind of claim.
I mean, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, Superman, Star Wars.
But you
Jaws.
said Beethoven, modern day Beethoven, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of classical music, these are the types of classical scores that most people listen to. Like
Okay.
they're not going to a symphony and checking out the next, Mahler or something. But like if you take a Star Wars film and remove the score from it, it's a completely different experience. This is not one of those films. Like this film works totally on its own without score.
Well, I mean, Star Wars, like the entire franchise, is built on melodies.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Let
But
me
it's
ask
not-
you something. In Atomic Blonde, what's the score like?
It's kind of the same.
Similar?
Yeah, similar
like
to this.
upbeat,
there's a lot
action-y
of,
in
like,
the fight scenes?
And there's a lot of like 80s throwback beats and stuff
Nice.
like that. It's cool. There's the color palette in Atomic Blonde's a lot more blue. It's a lot more like neon going on. It's really cool. It's beautiful to watch. We'll do that film at some point.
We'll do a hot chick kicking ass movie every month
Let's
until
do it.
we run out of them.
I support this message.
So we did Birds of Prey last month. We're doing Anna
Yeah.
this month. Or did we do Birds of Prey in February?
I think it was February.
Did we miss a hot chick kicking ass in March?
I can't remember now.
Yeah, Birds of Prey
We'll
was
have to go back.
February. Okay.
I mean, this is enough badassery to fill 2 months.
Yeah. So we'll do Atomic Blonde next month.
Yeah, no worries.
And then we'll do Red Sparrow in June or July.
So we're reaching that point of the podcast.
Oh, wait. Have we gone into Love Hates yet?
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Oh, sorry.
So, no worries. So what? Let's get your love hates first this time.
All right. So what I loved about the movie was freaking Sasha Lewis. Put her on screen and I'll watch. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm totally into it. But I really liked her character and her character development and how badass she is. She plays off the super intelligent, super hot, and really athletic. She played the character perfectly. She was what I loved about the movie. What I hated about the movie was I could have done quite a bit more action.
Okay.
I would have liked more action in the movie.
All right. I hear you.
That's all I got.
All right. For me, obviously my love is Sasha Lewis. Like, on top of everything you said, for someone to come in with a modeling background and have almost no acting experience whatsoever, and to just totally put everything into the role, and it shows. Like, I totally buy into the fact that she was completely dedicated in terms of giving us the best character that she could. And I'm like, I don't even know the girl, and I'm so proud of her. Like, she did a really great job in the role, and my hat's off to her. She was awesome. And then in terms of my dislikes, I mean, it's not even so much it's not a hate or a dislike, it's an observation, but there are some beats in this film that I feel like maybe borrow a little bit from Atomic Blonde. But I feel like this film's different enough where it can stand on its own. And Luc Besson, this is like, his wheelhouse. He's comfortable telling these kinds of stories. So the fact that it's coming from him, I have less of a problem with that, as I feel like more of the criticisms from critics, they seem like they're referring to the fact that it borrows from Atomic Blonde. But yeah, that's one little thing. And then maybe some of the technical aspects, like I would have liked if they maybe tried to construct some kind of camera shot that is a little more out of the ordinary, maybe not so traditional.
Okay.
In that sense. But I mean, everything happening on screen was the focus of the film. So that's why that's a really minor critique from me. That's just all flair. But yeah, the Sasha Lewis, the action sequences, all that stuff I really loved. And it's just little minor gripes from me.
Nice.
So after giving our takes on that real quick, what would you rate this film?
I'm going to give the movie 3 bong loads.
All right.
I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. It's not original in any way at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not award-winning, but it's not bad in any way.
No.
Right down the middle. 3 bong loads. I was smoking some Girl Scout crack when I watched it, what I'm smoking right now, too. And, yeah, it's a solid movie.
I'm right there with you. I'm going to give this a 3.5 buckets of popcorn. So just a little bit higher, but I was expecting garbage. Just reading some of these reviews before I sat down to watch it, and this film is not garbage by any means. It has some really saving graces, and that is the performances of the characters and the quality of the action you get on screen. It's so pleasing, and it's a total popcorn movie in the best of senses. So if you're looking to get some an hour and a half, 2 hours of enjoyment, this is a film I'd recommend. I mean, I think you'd have a lot of fun with it if you're on the fence about giving Anna a go-around.
Yeah, everybody's just sitting at home watching shit. This is totally worth watching.
Yeah, this is a good
opinion.
excuse to sit down and watch it.
I bet it's better than Tiger King, which everybody is raving about for some reason.
Yeah, Tiger King is the new craze going on.
Yeah, no thank you. I don't fall for fucking one more Netflix crime bullshit. I spent 12 hours of my life watching Making a Murderer. It was like 12 hours I'll never get back. So stupid. I heard they made a second season of that fucking shit. Tiger King's the new Making a Murderer. Is just going to waste everyone's time for the next 6 months.
Oh, man. Well, I think we're pretty much all in agreement that Anna is 2 hours worth your time and not so much a waste of your time.
And if you like a hot chick on screen, she's there the whole movie.
Yeah,
and
and
you can't, you don't want to sound like an asshole saying it, but it's absolutely enjoyable.
well, no, you're spot on. She's gorgeous, but on top of that, she does a really good job acting.
Yeah.
Like, she's not a supermodel that took this role because she wants to be, an actor and she wants to get her face on screen. No, you can tell she put in the work to do this film.
Yeah, it's rare that you get like a full starring role in whatever the second or third movie she's ever been in, right?
Yeah, and this director, he's been directing for decades. So you know that she has to have some kind of talent for him to just take her from a supermodel into starring into this crazy action film. So again, hats off to her.
Hats off, Sasha.
So yeah, that's episode 15 of The Buff and the Blazer. We just discussed Anna. Give it a watch if you can.
It's on HBO Go. That's where I saw it.
Sweet. All right. So yeah, give Anna a go and let us know what you think about it. That's all we got. I'm Drew. I'm here with El Toddo, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
See you later, people.